Congratulations on getting to the end of this course. And now we're going to get onto a really fun part where we're going to get to create a business card application. And this is an example of what I'd like you to build. It's something I've created to go through and show you how it's done. However, I've intentionally left it fairly basic, as I'd like you to really get creative and show off what you can do. So I'd suggest giving this a go as usual, and then getting all the basic layout created, and then getting all the functionality working using JavaScript. So in my version, I've created two sections. So the left hand side is a user's input, where they can put in the name of their company, and they can also add various text such as names, job titles and contact information. They can also add a little bit of style into the business card using the background colours, and also change the colour of the text and the text alignment. And then there's a right hand div which includes a sample business card, and all the changes which are placed inside the left div and then dynamically inserted into the business card. So you can see as soon as you put in any information in the left hand side, it's then replicated into the business card. We can change any of these values and it's all changed straight away. So have a go at replicating this yourself and see what you can create, and then upload it at the end. I'd love to see what you can come up with, and hopefully you can achieve all this by yourself. If not, just follow along with me and I'll show you how I created this. So let's start with its own folder. So let's just copy any of the videos which has the HTML skeleton, and then rename the folder business card project. And drag it into brackets and change the title. And let's start with a clean page, so get rid of the style tags and anything else inside the HTML or the JavaScript. Okay, so the example I've copied has the index page for us, and we also need a external JavaScript file. So I've already got the alert.js, so I'm just going to change this to custom.js, and then also create a new page for the style sheet. So this is a style.css, and then let's add these into the index page. So let's add the style sheet to start with, and this is just in the root directory. So the link is just style.css, and then the script tag I'm going to add right at the very bottom of the body, and then the source, again it's in the root directory, so we can just go to custom.js, and let's make some space there. Okay, so to begin I'm going to create some divs, and I'm going to use the bootstrap grid to help us out on that. So let's get started with the heading of the page. So let's create a div with a class of container fluid, and we'll make this a responsive project. Then the div with the class of row, and then to make this the full width of the page, let's create a div with the call, the class of call SM12, and then the level 1 heading, which is business card designer. And then a second container fluid, which is going to be the container for both the left div and the right div. So a new div with the class of container fluid, and let's make some space there. So there's going to be two sections to this part. There's going to be the input, which is where the user inputs the form information. So let's just create a comment of input section, and then let's create the grid for this. So let's create a div with the class, the bootstrap class of call SM12. So it's a 12 column grid of full width on the smaller devices. The medium sized devices will make it half the width of the page. So call MD6. And then so we can style this ourselves, I'm going to add our own custom class of background, and we'll use that in just a bit in the CSS. Okay, so now we need to create our HTML form for all the user inputs, and let's give this form a ID of card info, and you can call these whatever you want, it doesn't really matter. And then let's add some classes, so a bootstrap class of form horizontal. And then inside this form, let's create some bootstrap form groups. So the first form group in its own div, and inside this class of form group we're going to create some sections of the form. So we're going to create the labels on the left hand side and then the input on the right. So we want the label on the left hand side to use a bootstrap grid, and this is going to take up 3 columns, which will leave a remaining 9 columns for the input. So let's create the label now. So the label, so this label is for the input, which will give an ID of input company. So the way I'm going to arrange the IDs in this project is anything on the left hand side, which is the user input, is going to have an ID beginning with input. So the first one is input company, and then we'll have input message, for example. And then on the right hand side in the business card, I'm going to create the IDs for this section to begin with output. So this will be output company and output message, for example. Just so it's clear once we get to the JavaScript section, which ID we're currently using. Okay, so now we've got the label for input company. Let's add the bootstrap classes. So this one is call SM3, and also control label, and the text is company name, and then the colon, and then the input next. So the input we want is just text, and then the class, again a bootstrap class of form control, and then the ID, it's just the ID that we've put inside the label. So the ID is equal to input company, and then the last thing is the on key up. So every time a key is released, we want it to trigger a function of print company. So this will print the company name to the business card side. So let's save that and let's open it up in the browser. So it's a little bit messy now. I think we just need to put the input inside a div. So let's create a bootstrap div with the class of call SM9, and then move the closing div to after the input. Okay, so the label's got the 3 parts, and the input has the remaining 9 columns. Starts looking a little bit better now, so let's move on to the company message. So you can either type all this out again, or you can just copy this div section and then just paste that below, and then it's just a simple case of changing some of the values. So this one is input message, the company name is now company message, and then we need to change the ID, and then also the function name to be print message, and that should be all we need for the message. So let's just refresh, and there's the message. So now we need to move on to the background and the text color. So let's go back over to the text editor, and then we can paste in the form group again. So the inputs, I'm going to call mine input BG for background, and then change the ID, change the label to background color. And so because we're selecting a color, we want to change the input type to be color. So the ID is correct, and then we need to add a value, and this is going to be the initial value. So I'm just going to add a value into there, a hex value of FFB74D. And we're going to use a different event handler this time. This time we're going to use onChange. So every time the color is changed, it will then trigger a function called change BG. And we can also reuse this part because the next one is to change the text color. So this also needs to have the input type of color, but we just need to change input BG to input text. Change the input ID, and then this time we need to change this to text color. I'll just change a spelling mistake there. So the text color, I've got the input type of color, the ID is correct, the value, I'm going to change mine to 262626, and then the function on change again is going to be change text. So then I'll just save that and check out how that's all looking in the browser. So refresh. So there we go. So there's our company name, company message, and then we've also got the color picker appearing once we select the background color, and also once we select the text color. And we've also got the default colors showing inside there. So we'll leave this video there and we'll continue in the next video, and we'll start adding the text alignment and we'll finish off the form section. So thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.